I'm Schiff, and this is a taste of Shabbat. For my Shabbat dish, I'm making a coffee cake with red wine soaked prunes. There's something very nostalgic about coffee cake for me. I started putting prunes in it because growing up in New York, the Jewish pastries, like everything had a prune in it. Every dessert at my grandma's house was like, with prunes. I basically went to Shabbat services because I knew that afterwards there was this like huge spread. I would like run because I wanted to get all the pastries that didn't have prunes in them. But as an adult, I've really started to embrace it. Prunes are really delicious. They're these sweet, dried plums, and they're used a ton in Jewish baking, Ashkenazi Jewish baking. There's always a prune in it, you know? So I wanted to put them in a coffee cake, and I just love it. I think it's delicious. I like to start with the prunes. You can make these up to a week ahead of time. Just keep them in the fridge. Dry red wine, you can just eyeball it. I mean, it's wine. Just dump it in there. You know, Shabbat in my house growing up was like, people observe it in all these different ways, but it's so universal. It's just about the end of the week, sit down at a meal with your family or your friends or just people you love and be thankful and have a good meal. We would do it up with challah, candles, manischewitz, grape juice. The idea of traditions and using food to kind of like bring people together is very important to me. I grew up in New York, so Jewish food in New York, your association automatically is like bagels and lox, and yes, that's a huge part of it. The part of it that has been like given the most visibility over the years. I think the thing that I wish people understood more about Jewish food is that it's just so vast. The diaspora is massive. In my journey as a chef, and personally just as a Jewish person who likes to cook and loves food, you know, I've learned so much, and that's really, really exciting. I think it's almost done. You run your spatula around the side and you see the wine is this like syrupy goodness that takes a minute to kind of like drip down the side. That's what you want. I'm gonna turn this off, leave it right here, and I'm gonna work on the streusel topping. I just kind of go through and break up any big clumps of brown sugar. Some little like pea-sized bits are totally fine. You really don't want to overmix this and turn it into a uniform dough. Once I kind of get it like mostly combined, I switch to working with my hands, and you can break up any really big clumps, but you do want like a nice variety of crumbles because it just makes for a really delicious, fun texture. I'm gonna let my prunes sit on the counter and just cool to room temperature. I'm gonna put my streusel topping in the fridge to chill, and I'm gonna make my coffee cake batter. We're gonna start with the dry ingredients. I love cake. It's like my entire personality. Okay, so my dry ingredients, just gonna set those aside, and I'm gonna get going creaming my butter, which is room temperature. So if you want to make this on a Friday afternoon before Shabbat, take your butter out in the morning, leave it out on the countertop. You're supposed to be like sitting down, relaxing, having a glass of wine. So it's really nice to just have everything like set and prepped. Also, if you are a very observant Jew, you do not work, you do not cook, you do not drive, you don't turn on the lights once Shabbat is happening. Traditionally, like you would prep everything ahead of time. I use both vanilla extract and a vanilla bean. This is how you split a vanilla bean. They're generally pretty flat. I like to just take them first and just kind of like flatten them out a little bit more, hold one side down, and with a small sharp knife, I just kind of split it right down the middle, but leave one end intact. Kind of open it up like this, and then using the back of the knife, open each side of the pod and scrape out all of that gorgeous vanilla and add that right in. Vanilla is beautifully incorporated. Now I'm going to add the dry ingredients. do not want to overmix because we want to keep the crumb of this cake nice and delicate. I do think sharing recipes and teaching and passing things down is so important. I mean, obviously at work, I'm in a chef role and I'm also in a teaching role like every day. And it is so cool to make something and then to see somebody then recreate it. In Judaism, we do have so many holidays that are tied to food, and we see so much symbolism in food, and we tell stories through food. So having recipes that mean something, you keep those stories alive by teaching and passing down and, you know, writing things down. So it is really important to share what I do. I'm really happy with this. It looks perfect. It's got a few little streaks of the sour cream, but it's not overmixed. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it into the pan. So this is a buttered and parchment-lined springform pan. Take half of this batter. Because this batter is so thick, it's not going to spread out on its own, so you do kind of want to make sure you can get it into as even a layer as possible. And then I'm gonna do a layer of our prunes, which strained off the syrup, roughly chopped them. I'm just gonna add the prunes in an even layer. And they're gonna add so much moisture and flavor and deliciousness to this coffee cake. Now I'm gonna top it with the last of the batter, smear it out. And then last, I'm just gonna grab my streusel, which has been chilling. I don't pack it in, because I don't want it to get like too weighed down, all right? And now we're gonna go into the oven. It's gonna bake at 350 for about 50 minutes. All ovens are different, so you know, just keep that in mind. A toothpick or a cake tester will come out of the center clean, maybe with like a few moist crumbs on it. And that's it. Into the oven we go. So my cake tester came out clean, fully cooled, at room temperature, and now we're ready to unmold her. Release the latch on the side, and if you need to, if you feel like it's like clinging to the side a little bit, you can use a small knife, run around the edges. This one just, what a beauty. And because we lined the pan with parchment paper, it should be really easy to loosen the cake and pop her right on the cake stand. Last, I like to top her with a little bit of powdered sugar. And I kind of like a lot of powdered sugar. I'm pretty generous with it. I'm so excited. The queen of the Shabbat table. Here we go. Oh, that crunch going right through that streusel. Oh. Just live for slicing a cake. Oh my God, gorgeous. Tastes so nostalgic, comforting. It screams Shabbat. The crunchy streusel going into the soft, tender cake and those jammy prunes. It's just like, oh, it just makes me so happy. And the best thing about Shabbat is that we get to do it every week. You can make this every week. You can have cake every week. Shabbat Shalom.